thank you for coming on. Like super excited to talk to you because I've been following your stuff for a while, and I've always wanted to ask about like the S curve, like like the arm
That's
swing
it.
S curve. But we'll dive into that later. Let me just introduce you a little bit. Cameron Performance. That's your brand on Instagram. That's where I found you. Can you share a bit about your journey in volleyball and what led you to become an online volleyball coach and content creator?
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, appreciate it. First, yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, I appreciate the invite and talking to you more
Yeah.
about whatever it is we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I got
Um,
so much to talk about here. Like we
all
we
right,
we
yeah,
can
let's
dive
do it.
literally in like we can go in any direction. Like I have a
Yeah,
list
I'm
of
done.
questions, but like we could go in any direction that like just naturally comes up, and that's how I kind of like to keep the podcast.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's free, and I love talking training. I love talking volleyball. So yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, my name is Jade. Started playing volleyball really like the earliest memory, like somebody asked me this in my stories question, but my earliest memory was like when I was probably about 6 years old, and I remember playing. I was with like the aunts and the uncles and everything. We were at a beach court that was beside a movie theater, so we were there at night, kind of thing. I'm pretty sure this is where it was.
Hmm.
And then they were all playing just like some pickup, and then I was on the court as well. And I remember just doing a bump, right? Just went straight up, straight up. It was
Hmm.
coming right back down to me, and they were all like, "Again, again." So I'm like, "Okay." And then they're like, "It went straight up again."
Yeah.
And then they're like, "Again, again." And then I don't know how many times I did that. Probably just like once or twice more. But yeah, that's my earliest memory. But it's been around me, pretty much my whole life. Like my dad played, my uncle played. Like he still plays, and he's around the game a lot. He's doing a lot of coaching, but he's played a lot, and he really guided me into the sport a lot. Like he coached me a lot, and it just made me want to play even more and more and more, right? And my brother played a lot as well, my older brother.
Hmm.
And as a younger brother, I'm just trying to compete. I'm just trying to compete with him.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to beat him, right? So he's 2 years older than me, and if I'm 10, he's 12. He's jumping higher, and I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm gonna jump higher than you. I'm gonna jump higher than you. He's playing, and he's trying to hit a ball hard. I'm gonna hit a ball harder than
Yeah.
you. And it's just like what he was doing, I was trying to do more, right? And I think I just took it to the next level where I kept playing. I kept playing. I kept training because I loved it. I love trying to improve myself. I love the game. I just love moving in general, and I love
Hmm.
sports, right? So volleyball, like I love the technical aspect of it. I love the rhythm of it. I love the explosiveness, right?
Yeah.
But I love all
Yeah.
sports, even curling. Like I will watch, like they're so determined and focused and precise. I love it. I love
Yeah.
sports,
Yeah.
right? So sport and moving and just playing and having fun has just always been a part of my life, and I truly love it, right? So
Yeah.
um, and I just kept playing, and it didn't really start. I didn't really start getting more serious about volleyball until about high school, right?
Hmm.
High school, probably grade 10, so I'm about 15 here, I think. And I'm just training a lot more. I'm trying to jump higher. I'm working out more. I've always worked out too, also because my brother worked out. He wanted to get bigger, and then I'm like, I want to get bigger too,
Yeah.
right? So I'm trying to do push-ups. I'm using like light weights and stuff like that. But so working out was always a thing for me as well. And I remember my dad telling me one time when I was like, I don't know, 4, like he would pretend like play with me and wrestle with me kind of thing. And he just said I would just go like this. I would just be so intense, like, okay, let's go. And I'm like 3 years old or whatever, and I'm just intense, and I'm trying to beat the person in front of me. I'm
Hmm.
determined to, right? So that kind of stuff has been around. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, but like
Hmm.
the point is that I've trained and I've been trying to beat somebody, right? Or try to beat myself, try to improve myself there, right? And I've had that determination, well, since I was younger, right?
Mhm.
And as in high school, yeah. So as I was saying, in high school, I really started to dive more into training and train more to jump higher, right? And train to hit harder. So I'm practicing after practice. I'm still practicing, right? I go to the gym after practice. I'm carrying the ball around with me at school, right? I'm the guy who's like carrying the ball around me. I had a backpack that had a strap behind it where I can
Yeah,
just like put the ball
yeah.
into it so I can always just like take it out and just hit it. So at lunchtime I'm practicing in the gym, I'm practicing outside. And I'm just practicing,
Hmm.
right? And but my training wasn't necessarily the best, right? I'm also trying to get big here too. So like it's competing. It's competing. So I'm working out, which is good. I'm getting stronger, which is good, right? But it's not necessarily the best for volleyball,
Right.
right? So I'm not really jumping higher, maybe just because I'm exercising and I'm getting stronger and I'm jumping and I'm growing as well too. So I'm getting more explosive. I'm jumping higher and I'm hitting harder. But it wasn't necessarily the best training, right? But
Hmm.
I kept training like that. I didn't really know, but this is where I really fell in love with kinesiology. I took an exercise science class in grade 11, and the teacher of that was also my coach for volleyball. And he knew how much I trained and how much I loved the game and everything like that. So he really helped me, like I think he was really trying to tailor me or trying to like guide me in the right direction to train and keep playing volleyball, like give me what I need to, keep playing, kind of just like feed that passion, right?
Hmm.
And I loved it. I just studied it so much because I'm like, this is improving me. This is improving my body, right? I can train my muscles a certain way and I can move in a certain way and produce a better result pretty much, right? And I remember studying anatomy so much where like it got to the point where I can see the red, the diagrams in anatomy books,
Hmm.
they're like red muscles. I'm walking around and I don't see people. I just see the red muscles. It's like I see their muscles and I'm looking at them I'm like, yeah, those are quad, you know?
That's funny.
So I was just like diving into all that stuff and then I just kept going more and more into it. And then I applied to York University um, for kinesiology, and then I
Hmm.
got in, and then I went to York University, studied kinesiology. I was also played on the volleyball team there, so I was varsity for 5 years, right? Kinesiology, graduated there, and throughout that time, I just kept learning more and kept training myself. But again, the training wasn't necessarily the best.
Hmm.
I came into university, I was jacked. I was
Hmm.
jacked, right? And I was like training to get stronger and bigger, but I wasn't training the right way, right?
Hmm.
So I was actually slower and I was heavier, right?
The right way for
Um,
volleyball performance or the right way for your goals at the time?
I would say I was training the right way for my goals because the goals, like it was, they were conflicting goals, right?
Okay.
So yes and no, because I did want to jump higher, I did want to hit harder, I did want to run faster, but I also wanted to, have some muscle, like a
Look
lot
a
of
certain way.
muscle. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And this is something that comes up a lot as well, like for some high school athletes, like they want to get bigger
Hmm.
or they might want to look a certain way, right? But if you go too heavy into that, if you go too much into that, then you can start really transforming your body to a certain way as opposed to, if you want to also play volleyball and excel in volleyball, you're going to need to train a certain way, right? The body adapts to the stimulus that you give it.
Yep.
And if you give it one thing a lot, then you're going to become that more so as
Hmm.
opposed to that. So I was kind of doing both and it was conflicting. I was getting slower, I was getting heavier. And then I started learning more about training, just training smart, right? I started to dive more into the research, the old training, the Russian training.
Hmm.
and really just learning more about how to train smart, right? Giving my body what it needs, recovering, right? How to recover properly and everything like that, and started learning more about technique, right? And it wasn't until I started doing this when I started really excelling. So I started really jumping a lot higher. Technique was a lot better. Jump technique, spiking technique was a lot better. And even though I didn't have, the same size, I was hitting a lot harder and I was jumping a lot higher, which
Hmm.
is the goal, right?
Hmm.
I want to become a better player for volleyball, right? That's the goal, right? So it wasn't until I started learning more and training smarter when I started to get the results, right?
Hmm.
And then I just kept going. I kept learning more. After graduating, this was all after graduation. Actually, like just for the time frame and everything like that. After graduation, I started to learn a lot more. And then I went to train at the national team center. So I was on the training team there at the national team training center in Gatineau. This is in Quebec. So I was training there for a season, and that was awesome. That was awesome. I was under Dan Lewis. He was the head coach there, and he was just so knowledgeable, so helpful. He played lib. I was also a lib as well.
Hmm.
So sorry, my story is kind of like
No, you're
not well
good.
put together, but I was playing lib and I wanted to jump higher and I wanted to hit harder.
Yeah.
I wanted to pass better. I wanted to defend better,
I
move
feel like all
quicker.
guys want to jump high and hit hard, though, you know?
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
good feeling.
And like yeah, like as a lib too, like I wanted to bounce balls, right? I wanted to hit hard, I wanted to jump high. But yeah, anyways, I got accepted into the program and he was actually the libero for the national team. So having him as a coach was phenomenal, right? Like he had that experience, the knowledge, and just the way that he thought about the game, approached the game, and understood the game. So next level. So next level. And it helped me so much grow. It helped me grow so much, sorry.
Hmm.
And still to this day, I take a lot of the concepts that he taught me, right? And it's helped a lot, right? And it's helped a lot. So there was really when I started to improve more of my skill, my passing, my defense, my knowledge of the game, reading the game, right? And
Hmm.
just becoming an overall better volleyball player. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then after that, so the season was cut short after, because of COVID.
Hmm.
So then after that, I really started to dive more into training myself again and training athletes online. And then I had my Instagram page. I had my Instagram page about a year before that, actually, but I stopped because I was going to the center and I was just putting more time into training and everything like that. So I had about like 300 followers. I started off zero, just none. I was my 10th follower. Like my personal account was my 10th follower. And and then yeah, so when I started back up again, I had about 300 followers. And then I just started putting out content. I put out a program first and I just started putting out content, and it was a bodyweight program. This was my first program that I released. It was a bodyweight program to improve your vertical jump.
Hmm.
Um, and I put that out and just start putting out more content, release another program, and then just kept putting out more content consistently and training athletes online as well. This is when I started to really build my business online.
Hmm.
And then since then, yeah, I've just been training athletes, training myself, and trying to help other athletes worldwide improve themselves.
That's dope. That's a dope story. That's really
Thank
cool.
you. It's pretty long, but
Yeah, that's really cool. Can we dive a little bit deeper into the concepts that you learned at the National Center and like what concepts really help you like get to the next level?
oh yeah. So that was a journey. That was a journey. So I came in and as a as an athlete and just as a person, I've been more of like an overthinker, we'll
Hmm.
call it, right? So I would think a lot. I would be aware a lot of what other people were doing, maybe creating stories in my head, right, of things that might not be true. right? And I would just overthink. If I did something wrong, I would spend like the next like whole day. I would spend the whole day just thinking about what I did and just kind of beating myself up for it, right? Because I wanted to do better. I wanted to do better and I wanted to prove that I could do something well, right? And being under Dan Lewis, I got pretty nervous as well too. And then I started to get stressed because I wasn't playing well. And then I started overthinking that as well. So one of the concepts that I learned there, not necessarily from the center, like they do have like the mental training there, which was
Hmm.
great. But I like to learn, like I learn a certain way, right? And I like to kind of chew on things a little bit more, a little bit differently, maybe apply it here. And I started learning more about the mindset. I started learning more about the mindset and coming back to the moment, being engaged. And
Hmm.
what I realized is that I was actually stopping myself from playing the way that I actually know how to play, right? So I have all of these skills in me. I have these reps that have ingrained the skill. I have the knowledge. I'm able to read it, but I've just been stopping myself from actually performing that. So I wasn't playing free. And it
Hmm.
became a goal of mine to now play free, where I'm able to execute the stuff on command just automatically because I've done it before and I know and I trust myself. Right.
Hmm.
So this is a concept like self one, self two, self one, self two. We have two selves, right? I was talking to myself. I was like, Jade, come on, like you got that, you got that. So I was talking to myself one, right? My self two was talking to myself self one. I
Hmm.
forget which ones are like the actual ones, um,
So
but
funny.
pretty much I was getting mad at myself and I was suppressing what I know, right?
Hmm.
And then there was actually a moment where I'm walking to the center and I actually apologized to myself. I said,
Hmm.
I'm sorry. Like I'm sorry that I've been stopping you from playing. And I felt like the shivers
Oh
and I
wow.
felt emotional, right?
Yeah.
And even now too, like I'm getting emotional from it because it's like I can let myself play, and that's just such a good feeling. Just to be yourself, to be free, to allow yourself to just be you is an amazing feeling. And growing up, I think I really suppressed that, and I wasn't allowing myself to be me, and that really it was like a weight. It was like okay, now I can be myself, right? And then we had a break. We had a winter break, and then I only trained like maybe once with the serving machine. Had my she was my girlfriend at the time, but she was on the serving machine and she was just like serving balls at me, just like. So I only trained once, and then when I came back from the break, I was just so much better, so much better,
Hmm.
right? And it wasn't necessarily because of how much I practiced more, right? It was just
Hmm.
because what I think is that I allowed myself to actually express the skill that I was training. So I let go. I let go. I wasn't trying to do anything crazy. I just tried to let go of everything. I focused on the ball and I was just passing threes, 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 threes. The guy in the box, he was just hammering balls at me, just and I'm just like threes, threes. And then the goal was like, okay, how can I replicate that? How can I
Hmm.
keep doing that, right? And it was a lot of meditation, right? Practicing it in the moment, right? And visualizing yourself in that moment and practicing it in your mind as well to get those reps. That those are all really big things that I learned and that I applied at the center. So that's one thing. That's the
Wow.
mental thing,
Yeah.
right? Right.
That's
And it
that's
was
like
huge.
it almost feels like a journey of like learning yourself almost. It's not even about volleyball at that point.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. And what I've also learned is that like my goal is just to be free,
Hmm.
just to be myself, play free, and volleyball is a means for me to practice that. I love volleyball and I love training and improving myself, right? But I can use that as a means to, express who I am.
Yeah.
and that was an amazing connection as well. But yeah.
That's amazing to hear because and it's crazy because I feel the same way in regards to jumping. And
Okay. Yeah.
it's just like a little thing, right? It's just like um when I like this was before I got hurt, but when I was jumping at like my like maximum capacity, like it just felt freeing and it just felt like I was able to express myself at the way I enjoy expressing myself, which was to jump high. And like throughout my whole life, I always like love to jump. Like I'm one of those people that just I see something like that I can't touch yet. I just try to go up and touch it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like and I never realized how much I loved it until it was taken away from me. And I was like, oh,
Uh,
like I feel like I'm not able to freely express myself the way that I want to anymore. Then my freedom, that what I identified as like what felt free, became into overall movement itself. And it's just not one movement, which was jumping. Now it's just movement in general. And now, like, whenever I train, I work out, I look at movement differently. And I just like, this is me being free now. Like, I get to
okay.
train
Yeah.
a certain way. Like, right now, my weak link is my feet, my hips. So, like, when I train, I want to train in a way that helps me to progress towards this goal right here. And that process in itself was like, is what I feel is like this the freeing aspect now instead of like jumping. But still, I still love jumping because it's like, to me, it's the highest form of what like I consider like as an expression of myself. That's why my
Mm-hmm.
username is the Jumpstar. But like
Ah,
even though
okay.
even
Yeah.
though like I don't jump the way I used to, like it's still, to me, the expression of jumping is what I love. And even to this day, even I'm still recovering from my injury, which is like making a lot of progress recently.
Nice.
I I still have right now. My goal is to get a, because I used to have a 40-inch vert. So my goal is to get back to a 40-inch vert and then maintain it for as long as I can. So I want to maintain it to 40 years old. Because you know how crazy it is to have a 40-inch vert at
40,
40?
40. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. So, but it's like it's a goal for me to like strive towards, because I know it's gonna be hard, but it's like what's the point if it's not gonna be hard, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and that's good. Like you accept that there's gonna be work in it, and so
yeah,
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 like it's gonna take work. It's gonna take persistence, like
yeah.
to
And I
get to
think
that.
that's where the growth
Oh,
is anyway. So if it's too easy,
100%.
yeah, it's like there's not that much growth. So I really resonate with
Yeah,
like that, like your goal is freedom, and like I really
yeah,
vibe with that. Yeah,
yeah.
so let's talk about your coaching philosophy. Like I want to hear about your coaching
Okay.
philosophy and like what is it when it comes to training volleyball players, and like how do you approach performance improvement?
Hmm. Okay. So I'm gonna ask you a question. Could
Yeah.
you expand on what you mean by philosophy? Like
Like
what do you mean by that?
I guess I guess not coaching philosophy. I guess principles, more like what's your
Okay.
principle? Like um how do you approach training volleyball players? Like what do you start with? What do you like mainly focus on? What principles do you apply to train?
Mm,
Um
I see.
and how you approach that aspect.
I see. I see. Okay. 1 second. Pause. It's cold here in
You're
Canada.
good, you're good.
It's cold. So I'm getting a blanket.
Yeah,
I'm getting a blanket here, just to keep
yeah.
myself warm while I'm just sat here. Yeah. Yeah, no, you can keep that in, cut it. I don't know, whatever you
No, no, no.
want.
This podcast is super laid back. I would like I would rather just keep it in because it's like it's how we are in real life. So it's like it's no problem with that.
It's real. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's real. Cool. All right. So okay, yeah, that's a good explanation. That helps me go a little bit deeper into things. So when I get an athlete, what I'm looking at is the kind of person that they are, or like who they are, so I can, like, I want to get to know them. I want to get to know
hmm,
them. I want to know who they are. I want to know. their personality,
Hmm.
right? I also want to know how they move, right? I want to get a baseline for how they move. So I ask for their game film, and I want it uncut. I want it uncut. I don't want highlights. I want it uncut full game so that I can see in between the whistles, like what it is you're doing, like when the point is made and then you go back to serve. I want to know everything that you're doing so I can just see, you know, what you're doing when you're not playing, pretty
Hmm.
much too, right? But I also look at their playing, right? And then from there, I'm also thinking about their position, their goals, and yeah, that's about it for in terms of individuality, right? But I think those are key. Those are key because if I don't know who this person is, right, on a personal level, on a real level, it's gonna be hard for me to connect with them. Um, and I think it's just important, like as a coach, to know your athletes. You know,
Hmm.
I think it's important to know who they really are so that you can just connect with them. You can connect with them and you're not there to just give them drills, you know, you're not there to just help them get to their goals. Yeah, that's one thing. But to me, as a coach, like I want to help them get better overall. I want to
Hmm.
help improve their overall lifestyle. I want to help improve their overall, you know, anything that they're dealing with internally, anything externally, I want to help them with that as well. And if we need to go somewhere else as well to help with that, then you know that's something that we can look at. But really, like I'm here to help guide you, and I'm here to help train you become the best person that you want to be. Right.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the way that I look at it. And there's the personal level, and then there's like the physical level, right? Where they want to improve their vertical jump, they want to hit better, they want their technique to be better. So I'm looking at their game film. I'm looking at the way that they move, and I
Hmm.
want to get like a consistent like foundation of what it is that they're doing. And then from there, you know, we have our testing and everything like that. So I take them through their quickness test, their spiking test on the ground and in the air, and I'm recording it. I'm watching what they're doing, and then this really helps me tailor the program to the athlete and their goals.
Mm.
So yeah,
That's that's cool. That's a nice little assessment you got there. Nice
yeah. So
system.
yeah, one thing I'll say too is that like we'll what I do is like skill and strength, right? So I
Hmm.
focus on skill aspect and strength, combine the two because I want to help them become a better player, right? And in order to do that, I want them to improve their technique, but you also need to improve the physical aspects of it as well,
Yeah.
right? And there are physical things that can help you with your technique, and there are physical things that can help you um, be more explosive in your
Hmm.
technique, right? And then there's also like specific conditioning for volleyball, depending on your position and what you need and everything like that. Um, so yeah, in terms of your question, it's skill and strength, combining it together to help them become the best player
Nice.
that they can be. Yeah.
I love that. So let's go into what I'm really interested in is that S curve arm swing. Like, how did you come up with that? And like, did you learn it somewhere, or did you like get like you did you create it yourself? Because I've never heard of an S curve arm swing until I saw like your videos.
Yeah. So um, yeah. So the S curve, I call it the reverse S curve, just because
Yes,
if
yes,
you're
the
looking from
reverse
the
S
back.
curve.
Yeah, no problem. It's just because if you look at it from the back, that's the path that it makes, right?
Hmm.
And pretty much what the reverse S curve is the path that the shoulder and mostly the arm as well takes when you're doing a spike, right? That's
Hmm.
ideally what we want to be in, and it can vary depending on the athlete, right? Some can have really like shorter ones, and some can have really long ones, depending on the type of swing, depending on the position, like their tendencies, things like that. But the point of the reverse S curve is, well, I'll tell you how I figured it out first.
Yeah.
So one like it's always there. It's always been there, right? I analyze a lot of game film and I really dig deep into the biomechanics and of the arm swing and of sport as well, right? I love biomechanics, right? So I'm watching the arm swing, um, and I'm looking at these things at each action, right? So this is where I started diving into the spiking sequence, right? I named it the spiking sequence, but it's basically like the series of the actions that you go through, right, within the spike. And there are five main actions in there, and each of those can be improved, right, to get a better spike. Um, and in my research and in my just testing things out, I was actually doing a medicine ball throw,
Mm-hmm.
more like a toss, like a side toss, like a rotation toss kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing it. I was going back and then I was going down. Oh, sorry, I was going back and down, and I was going up and forward with the toss, right? And this was the movement that I was doing, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember if it was then when I was like, yeah, you got to go back and down and then up and forward. Or I think somebody commented something. This is a bad story because I don't remember what exactly he commented, but he was like, that's not the way you swing or something. And then it's just it made me look more into it. So when
Mm-hmm.
someone comments something or when someone says something to me, I I try to look at it objectively, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you mean by that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just gonna be like, no, you're wrong, right? Or get defensive and be like, no, I'm right. Like you're stupid, right? Like those feelings would come, but I'm like, okay, no, if
I
I'm
feel
trying to
you. I
improve,
get it all the time.
right? But like as I grew, right, and I learned and I'm like improving myself, I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily like I don't want to be like that. I want to learn,
Mm-hmm.
right? And like scientists, like I love scientists that are open, right, to change, right? And they're if they get something, they're not immediately like, no, that's wrong, right? These are the laws or whatever like that. The scientist that is like creative will be like, how can this be right? Or is this wrong?
Yeah.
Like they're questioning, like, is it really like, is my way of thinking really good? Right? Or is it the right way? Can it be better?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And these are all questions that I ask myself, right? And if I get a comment like that, or someone asks me something or tells me something, I'm like, is that right? Or what do they mean by that? Or how can I apply this to it? Does it apply it? And then I run through my filters and everything like that. And then I come to a conclusion, like if it's like, if I want to go with it. But the point is that it made me reflect. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what is this? And I started diving more into the shoulder rotation, the torso rotation, right? In the spiking sequence. And then I started looking at it more from behind as well. And then I saw that it goes like, I'm like, okay. And then I got my wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, and I got her arm. I'm like, hey, can you just look that way? And I got her arm and I'm like, okay. I'm like, oh, it kind of makes like a certain pattern. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. It makes a pattern. And from a two-dimensional view, it's a reverse X, right? So it's going like
Mm-hmm.
this from a
Yeah.
two-dimensional view. From 3D, it's actually a forward and backward or a backward forward cyclical rotation,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So you're going back and then you're going down, preparing for the circular part. You're
Mm-hmm.
going back. And then to finish off that circular, you're coming up to finish off the rotation forward. You're going forward, right?
Like that.
Yeah, yeah. So you're
Okay.
going back and down
Yeah.
and then up and forward, right? And
Oh
then
yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the backwards forward circular rotation, right? So that's what it's like three dimensionally, and naturally the arm's going to come forward with it, right? So that's going to follow in a similar path. And now yeah. So depending on your pullback, so if you have like a
Mhm.
low pull, a straight pull, or a high pull, it's gonna vary.
Yeah.
But even if you do have like more of a straight pull, you can have a more pronounced reverse S curve, right? If
Right.
you have more of that side bend,
Yeah.
right? You can have more of a pronounced one, right? You see Wilfredo Leon, like he doesn't have a low pull, but he's pulling back and down,
Yeah.
right? And then he's coming up and around, right? So that's like a pronounced reverse S curve. But then sometimes you have like maybe a middle who like he maybe they don't have so much, but it's still there, right? Like you see
Yeah.
how it's still a little
Yeah.
bit, right? It's just not as pronounced as
Yeah. Because
like
they gotta
someone
be
who's doing a
quicker
pull.
because they gotta hit the
Yeah,
quick balls.
yeah, and it for sure depends. Like it depends on the situation. Like sometimes you'll have someone who wants to do like more of a cut one in the middle,
Yeah.
but sometimes you'll have some middles that will just do a full swing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they'll have more of a pronounced reverse S curve, right?
Mhm.
So it for sure depends. But the point of it is that we can get into the whole spiking sequence, but we'll just talk about the reverse S curve for right now. But
Yeah.
pretty much what you're doing prior to that in the pullback phase is you're preparing for contact point, right? So you're preparing for the next actions in the pullback phase, right? But in that pullback phase, you have the start of the reverse S curve, and you're going, sorry, you're going sorry, my words. I'm stumbling on my words.
No, you
You're
good.
going down and back, right?
Yeah.
And then you're coming around. And what we're doing is we're preparing to get into this position,
Yeah.
right? So now we're in this position, in the side bend position. And here we're able to optimally use our shoulder. We're able to optimally use our arm, like the muscles in the arm, and we're able to do these actions a lot better in a way that's advantageous for volleyball. Right
Yeah.
now, in volleyball, we got to hit pretty high, right?
Mhm.
But we also have to hit down. We have to hit forward and we have to make that ball go down. So this is an angle, like the way that we're preparing in the reverse S curve and leading up to it and going toward it. It's getting us in this position and it's also getting a good contact point and it's getting a good direction of force to go into the ball to make it go forward and down.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much the reverse S curve in a
That's so
nutshell.
cool to hear in person. Like the in-depth like explanation. That's so cool to hear. Yeah. And like I don't mind diving deep into the spiking sequence itself because I wrote down like you said there's five main actions of the spiking sequence. So
Yeah.
let's go through each of those actions if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, quick overview, five main actions. You have the pullback, you have the hip shift, you have the torso rotation, the arm action, and then you have the contact point with deceleration or the follow through.
Yeah.
Those are the five main actions, and they begin right after toe off, right? So
Hmm.
in your spike approach jump, you're jumping, and when the toes leave the ground, that's when you start the spiking sequence, and it
Hmm.
starts with the pullback. Now, there are individual differences, of course, right? Like, and it also depends on the situation. So it's
Hmm.
more of like a general guide, right? Like everyone's going to look slightly different, but these are the checkpoints. These are
Hmm.
the checkpoints that you hit: the pullback, the hip shift, torso rotation, the arm action, and the contact point, right?
Hmm.
Now, the pullback, like I said before, everything is preparing up for the next part, right? So there's a lot of overlapping actions in each phase, right?
Hmm.
It's not just like one and then the next one, the next one.
It's
Each
all
of them are
connected.
pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah, they're all connected, right? It's just these are ways you can break it up, right? And then you can improve it depending on which phase you're lacking in, right? Or
Hmm.
which action you're lacking in. Maybe it's a mobility thing, it's a strength thing, a coordination thing. You can work on those things, right? So you have the pullback, and I classify also three main pullbacks. You have the high pull, the straight pull, and then the low pull.
Hmm.
The low pull, you have it's more like this here, right, where the arm is underneath. The forearm is underneath the arm up here,
Hmm.
right? That's more of the low pull, and pair that with the reverse S curve, it can look like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, where you're winding up and coming around like that. You can have a straight pull where it's more or less in line or slightly above, right?
Hmm.
But key here is the upper arm is in line with the shoulder still, and then you can have a high pull where you're more up here, like this. And each of these you can still have that reverse S as well, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much what you're doing here is you're preparing for the next action. But what you're doing is you're pulling back, right? This opposite arm is coming away from the pullback, kind of like this. Maybe I can go a little bit further back. Yeah, there you go. So you're coming away like this, right? So you're coming up, around, and then you're pulling back, right?
Hmm.
Now, if you have a low pull, sometimes this arm, your hitting arm won't come above your head, right? You'll just go up and then start winding back, right? But sometimes you can also still have it like that.
Yeah.
But you're coming around here, and this is already creating momentum, right? You're
Yeah.
creating momentum for the next phases. You're pulling back, and then what we're getting here is we're starting to get some separation, right? So
Hmm.
main keys in the spiking sequence is separation. You got separation in range and separation in movement, right? The separation in range is being able to get that actual range between the parts of the spiking sequence. So if you have your hips, right, and my torso, I want to be able to get separation there, right?
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm getting a stretch in the muscles that are involved in the action. Same
Yeah.
thing with the torso and the arm, right? I want to have a patient arm so that now I can use this stretch here and let the arm come forward as a whip. There's still contractions there as well,
Hmm.
but the separation in range allows you to get that stretch there pretty much, right?
Yeah.
It also allows you to get into certain positions and get momentum, right? Because if we're just like, if we're stiff, we don't have the range, we're not going to be able to get into certain positions, we're not going to be able to wind back and everything like that.
Hmm.
So it can help with on the momentum side as well. And then separation in movement is being able to move them independently from each other, right? So if I'm trying to move my torso, right, forward, I don't want the arm coming first, or I don't want it
Right.
coming too at the same time too fast, right? Or if I'm moving my hips, if I'm doing the hip shift, I don't want the torso to come with it too soon, right? So we need a separation of movement, and what that does is it's transferring the force up the chain into the ball eventually, right?
Yeah.
So each part it's transferring from the hips to the torso to the arm, and then eventually into the ball, right? So separation and range and separation and movement is key there, right? And with the separation movement, that's like a coordination thing as well. And the timing of it, right? It takes a lot of reps, but the timing of it is down to the millisecond. Like it
Yeah.
happens very quickly, right? Like you're not in the air for a long time. So the timing of it is key. But separation, range, and movement, those two work together, right, to
Mhm.
get optimal um, transfer force and to get a better spike, pretty much.
Whew, I love that explanation.
So that was just like the first part. There's so much more to it. That was just the pullback, right? You have your pullback. Yeah, we didn't even get into this Viking sequence. That was just like the principles of it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love that. I love that.
Um, but yeah, to go on, right? Like you have your pullback, and then this ends when the elbow stops, right? And this can depend on like your range and everything like that. But as your elbow stops, then the next action is starting, which is the hip shift, right? So when I was talking about separation and movement, right? Each action overlaps the next, right? Or it overlaps the previous, right? So
Mhm.
as my pullback is ending, my hips are starting.
Mhm.
As my hips are ending, my torso rotation is starting,
Yeah.
right? And it's this overlapping that creates that it's a whole body whip. It's a whole body whip that just accumulates force and goes up into the ball, pretty much,
Mhm.
right? So as the pullback is ending, it ends boom there, the hips start going, the forearm comes up. Then we get into the hip shift phase. And the hip shift phase is pretty much like it's a combination of hip rotation, right?
Mhm.
We have some hip rotation, some internal rotation, and then but it's a shift. Like we're pushing the hips forward. And the point of that is to get momentum and to start the spiking sequence forward part, right? So this was like the backward part. Now we're starting the forward part more, right?
Mhm.
And the reason why this is important is because we're not on the ground when we're hitting most of the time, right? Like when we're jumping up in the air,
Yeah.
we're not on the ground. We're not able to get force from the ground. We're not able to take steps. We're not able to produce force into the ground and then put that up into the chain. We need to get some momentum. And this is one of the ways that we can do it, doing a hip shift. Now, of course, we're getting it with the approach jump and like the momentum going into the ball as well. But the hip shift really starts the momentum and it accumulates force up the chain and then going into the ball. Now we do that hip shift. It's super, super small, right? It's just boom, hip shift. Um, Now, as you're doing your pullback and you jump and you're in the air, the hips will naturally have like a slight straightening out, right? Like you'll straighten out slightly, and then that's the classic pose that you see, right? Where the hips are forward and then the shoulders are back. You have that separation, but then there's still a little hip shift that just pops. Your hip pops forward, and then you have then the next one is that torso rotation, right? So as that hip pops forward, you get that stretch in the obliques and the torso rotators, and then you're coming up and forward, coming from down here in that reverse S curve, right? So now we're not side bent here now and back and down. We're side bent here more so, and we're
Yeah.
back and down, right? This is that torso rotation. And just like what I mentioned about the reverse S curve, we're getting into that position and the arm is patient. All right. So now the torso rotation starts as the hip action, is completing. It overlaps. And in some hitters, it's more pronounced, but it depends on the situation. But you see that hip shift and you see the torso rotation, but you also have a shift in the torso rotation in the chest as well, right?
Hmm.
Not only are you rotating it forward, but you're rotating it forward and getting more momentum. So that's what I mean by it's a whole body whip, right?
Hmm.
It's a whole body whip.
Yeah.
Um, right. And then as the torso rotation is ending, then the arm stops here, right? It's in this patient position. It's loaded, right? So things are on stretch here. And then this needs to stop. And then it transfers up the chain and then goes into the ball. And then this comes as a whip, right? And in here we have extension and some rotation as well. But we're coming and it's a whip and then it's just coming through. And then the contact point, boom, you make contact. And then the deceleration, we're coming to the opposite pocket more or less, right? We're coming here, we're getting some internal rotation, but we're trying to stop. We're trying to decelerate this arm.
Yeah.
So everything here is really turned on to try and stop it, right? Otherwise, we just keep going,
Yeah.
right? So you're stopping itself is turning on pretty rapidly, and you're decelerating the arm after contact. So that's the spiking sequence in a nutshell.
In a
I can go
nutshell.
through it quickly. If I can go through it quickly, yeah. There you go.
So obviously, not every athlete is going to think about all of that, right? But I, I love that as a coach is so useful to be able to see and understand the concepts and then let alone like break it down like how you just did. But it's just and then like how do you simplify it for the athletes that are working on that spiking sequence? How do you like what drills do you give them that that helps them to get that sequence without even understanding what you understand?
No, I say it the exact same way. I give them the detailed view, and
Okay,
then
so
just like,
you
no,
give it
no,
you
no,
blow their head.
no, 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 no. No, I was joking. No, so yeah, if I can skip a conscious step, then that's good. Where they don't have to think about it, I can give them drills where they're working on it, right? But I'm giving them like an external goal, or I have some constraints where it makes them do the skill. It makes them do the thing that we're working on, right? And it depends. It depends on what the athlete needs. Let's say they need some separation and range. They also need some strength as well. We're going to do some exercises in the weight room to get some separation and build some strength. So like the reverse trunk twist is a really good entry level one. You can do it with your knees bent, right? And it really takes off the weight from your legs, but you're pretty much on the floor like this. You're on your back, your legs are up to 90 degrees. You can do it bent leg or straight leg, and you're twisting, right? And I don't want it like fast. I don't want it like that. I want you to keep your shoulders down and work within the range that you have,
If you
and
don't
then
mind, I'm
build
gonna show
strength.
them what you're talking about since I
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's see it. Yeah, I'll coach you through it if you need it. Yeah.
Walk me through it, coach.
Yeah, so you're on your back, right? And then your arms are out like a T. Perfect. Now, what I want you to do is you can feel your shoulder blades on the ground, right?
Yes.
I want you to try to maintain both of those shoulder blades on the ground the whole time, all right?
Yeah.
So we're gonna run through this slow and find your range. I want you to bring your knees over to your right side slowly. Huh? Yeah, you're gonna rotate nice and slow, and I want you to find that point where your
Oh,
shoulder
I'm
comes
tight.
off the ground. Yeah, so if it's there, you come back,
Oh, cramping.
and then you rotate through, and then you go over to the next side.
Should my hands be facing up or down?
Whatever's comfortable for
Okay.
right now. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And then this is your hitting side, right? Your righty.
Okay. This is a little bit better.
Yeah, and then you come back, and you're just building strength there, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
mobility.
Ooh, I started cramping up like right here.
Okay, yeah, okay. So that's a really good one. You can even get someone to put their feet down and just rock their knees, right, back and forth, and then just like gradually progress them to straight legs, adding weights. If you need to, you can put that on too. But really, I want you to get those knees closer to the floor
Yeah.
first, and then build strength in
My
that range.
freaking thoracic like rotation mobility is like horrible. As you can see, it's straight.
Okay. So that's something that would be pretty good probably
Yeah.
for you there.
Yeah. No, it would be good because I do notice like I'm very like I look very stiff and limited when I hit. Like I look stiff. It doesn't look like a full like it doesn't look like a really full whip because of my mobility issues like right here. I've always had
Yeah, okay.
mobility issues like in my thoracic area.
Yeah, I'm curious to check it out because I saw one where you guys were playing twos in the back row. I saw that video.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you were there. Was that you?
Yeah, that was
Were
me.
you in one?
Yeah.
Were you in one or two?
I was in one.
You're in one. Okay, yeah. So you weren't the one that got the dig and hit.
Oh wait. What do you mean in one? Like
Oh my gosh, no, I'm
was
so
it?
backwards. Yeah, I know. You were in one.
Okay.
You were in one. You did the serve. You got the
Yeah.
dig and hit.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
other guy was in five. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I remember that. Let me just try and find it here, and maybe we can work through
Yeah,
some
I
stuff
was
too.
like consciously, like I consciously try to stay a little bit looser when I play because I know like I'm a little tighter and like stiffer just because I of my mobility up here. So I try to consciously stay looser when I play, but I still don't look that loose, like that mobile. I wouldn't even say loose, that mobile, like that fluid volleyball, like hitter
Mhm.
look, you know. Yeah.
No, yeah, I for sure know what you mean. Like, that was something that I really struggled with when I would watch myself. I'd be like, "What the heck am I doing?" Like, I
Yeah.
look so awkward. I look so
Yeah.
awkward. My arms moving weird. Like, I would just be like this, pretty much, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I started really learning more and then trying to improve my technique, right, that was when I started hitting a lot better
Mm.
and hitting a lot harder as well. So it was fluid, and I was hitting easier and I was hitting
Mhm.
harder, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, technique is huge. Technique is huge,
huge.
and like in the Built for Volleyball system that I have online, like we work on technique there. We work on so you have mobility days and you have your full body strength days in like phase one, phase two. And you're really just trying to build the technique on the skill days that you also have.
Mm.
And yeah, you're just trying to ingrain that technique. Because what happens to a lot of people is they try it maybe once or twice on the ground and then they try to go in the air right away. And that is not going to work a lot of the
Right.
time. Like
Mm.
you're going to go back to your habits, right? Not to mention you might not even be doing it well on the ground, right? So
Mhm.
you want to make sure you're doing it well on the ground, it's consistent on the ground, and you're in a position that is more similar to when you're in the air, right? So when we're learning technique and everything like that, I don't get them to step into the ball so much. I keep their feet more or less straight, right? So
Mhm.
they're in a parallel stance,
Mhm.
and then they're just working on that separation to get back and then using the hip shift, using the torso rotation, using the spiking sequence to hit the ball as opposed to relying on the ground for force, right?
Hmm.
And even then, that can give them like false separation. They think they're rotating back, but their hips are rotating with them as
Hmm.
well. So
Yeah.
now they're just rotating as a unit and they're not actually getting the step separation. So keeping your feet together can expose like a lot of those separation and range and movement things. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to you. I use one of your concepts, which is like the hip shoulder separation. I got it from
Yeah.
watching you, and I applied it to one of my athletes that was struggling with serving the ball over net because she's a newer volleyball player, and she
Yeah.
didn't know how to create power from basically rotation and the arms sequence. So she would kind of go like this a lot.
The push swing. Yeah.
Yeah, the push swing, and she didn't have a lot of rotation, so I had her sit down to keep like everything parallel that way, and we're just working on the hip shoulder
Yeah.
separation, and after that, like it clicked for her, and she was able to make her serves consistently afterwards. So huge shout out to you.
Appreciate that. That's awesome. That's good
Yeah,
that you're able to help her out there pretty quickly too. That's good.
yeah, yeah.
Nice. Yeah, some people just need like to feel it. Some people need to
Mhm.
just feel what it's like to rotate back. They think they're rotating back. Like me, I thought I was rotating back. I'm watching the videos, I'm not. So I'm like, oh, I can go back more. And
Yeah.
let me get this range and use this actually in the air as well. But ingraining it on the ground is key. If you don't have it on the ground, chances are you're not really going to do it in the air,
Hmm.
right? Depending on the person, maybe.
Oh,
But
most people they got to be able to do on the
yeah,
ground first. Like there's because
yeah,
you have so much more control on the ground. Like in the
yeah,
air, like most people can't even control their own body like in the air. So it's hard to
yeah.
create new patterns like while you're in an unstable environment. So
100%. And if people don't, if someone doesn't want to go through that, right? Like back to basics, if someone doesn't want to do that, it's going to limit them
hmm.
down the road, right? They're not going
Yeah,
to have the basics that a lot of the things are put on top of, right? So, yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. What are some common mistakes that you see the athletes that you work with?
A lot of it, I do see like, so yeah, it depends. Like if I get like a younger athlete, chances are they're going to be doing like a push swing, like you described, right? So the pattern is an issue, and if they have the range, then they just don't have the coordination, right? They don't have the coordination to actually get that pullback. They don't know how to apply it in that actual situation, right? So getting them to, just grooving the patterns in that way, just doing, I call them shadow spikes. You just you just groove through the pattern over and over again at a super low intensity and just get the feeling for what it's like at a low intensity, and then you start picking it up. You can now apply it to a ball, maybe if you're ready, and you're just trying to replicate that same feeling that you got in the shadow spikes and putting it into the actual swing, still on the ground,
Hmm.
and in a way that you would be. So yeah, a common mistake is just like the push swing is a really good one. I think that's common as well, where they're just going like this, right? And they might not have the separation, they might not have the coordination, they might not have that reverse S curve concept, right? Where
Hmm.
you have to come around and down, right? Here they're going just up and forward, and the force is going that way, right?
Yeah.
So the ball is going to go that way, right? We want to come around, right? So we're coming around. This is that circular action coming around, and then that ball is going to come. Now we're coming from back here, and the ball is going to come forward and go down,
Hmm.
right? So teaching them that pattern, whether it's through just like the shadow spikes I said, or regular throwing drills, but in like a spiking sequence way, those are
Hmm.
really good ways to help teach them that pattern.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Let's dive into a little bit of the vertical jump. And
Woohoo!
yeah, because I love the jump.
Yeah, yeah, man.
I want to ask like what you did to help improve your vertical jump, and what principles or concepts, or because obviously everyone is a little bit different. Someone might need a certain like stimulus versus another person, but what are certain principles that you use or what is a consistent approach that you use for yourself and for your athletes to help with their vertical jump?
To help with the vertical. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was gonna tell you the spike approach sequence, 20 phases, super in depth. No, no, okay. Um, but yeah, so for the spike approach jump, or just like overall vertical
Overall,
jump.
yeah.
Yeah,
Overall,
okay,
I want to
overall.
jump higher. How can you get me there?
Yeah, okay, cool. So just like you said, it depends on the athlete, what they need, right? What they need will determine kind of like the way that we're training. If you're a younger athlete, chances are you need like a lot of the things, right? So
Hmm.
we're just going to start off with some general strength. I want you to build just like a solid foundation of just strength,
Hmm.
right? And especially if you don't know the movements, if you've never trained before, I have
Hmm.
to teach you the movements as well, right? I want you to
Right.
be able to train safe as well and to know that you're doing it well to get the desired result as well,
Hmm.
right? So I mean, really, you can be in a strength building phase, progressing it and like changing it up with them for a long time. Like it could be
Hmm.
like 3 months, like it could be 1 month, it could be 2 months, 6 months, it could be a year, depending on the athlete and what they need, right?
Yeah.
And that in itself will improve their vertical jump because you're improving their force production, right?
Hmm.
You're improving their general force production, and they're going to be playing as well. So they're going to get those jumping reps as well. They need technique stuff. We'll work on that as well. But they're going to be getting that coordination. And if they're an athlete that jumps a lot, chances are they already have that technique. Like if they've played a lot of sports, if they've tried to dunk, they played some basketball, they play volleyball, right? And if they have that technique, chances are you just need to clean up some stuff. But if you have someone that's like super uncoordinated, improving their technique will help a lot with
Hmm.
their vertical jump, right? But yes, improving their general strength. And I don't mean like max strength, like squatting 1 rep max kind of thing, right? Like I want you to just build your overall strength, right? This is just like a human strength thing, right? So if they come to me and they're 150 like pounds, right? Like maybe I'm just gonna start them off with a body weight squat, right? Because already that could be a lot for them, right?
Hmm.
I'm going to make sure they have the pattern down and I'm just going to help them work through it. And then maybe I'll add some dumbbells there, maybe do like a goblet squat with them. But they don't need any of the other stuff right now, right? So you're just trying to build their strength and build their force production cap, cap capabilities. And if you think about it like a chart here, right? If this is how much force they can produce, right? We want to increase that, right? We want
Hmm.
to increase that arc here, right? And then we want to shorten the arc, right?
Hmm.
So now we're producing this amount of force in a short amount of time.
Hmm.
And then we want to shorten it even more. So it's like more specific to the amount of time we have on the ground.
Hmm.
And we also want to increase this as well, right? So
Right.
we want to improve their force production and decrease the amount of time it takes to get there,
Hmm.
right? So that's a good general like concept that can help. Now, where you are and what you need will depend. But that is pretty much like one of the good ways to look at it. So you have like your general stuff, and as you try to shorten it more, it's more specific. It's more
Yes.
specific type of training, right? And that's where you have like the plyometric type work, the explosive work, that kind of stuff. And you can still do those, right? Like in the beginning phases, um, and I still want you to jump as well, right? Like build that coordination because like if you don't know how to use it, then it's not gonna be much help for you, right?
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like I definitely relate to like yes, like someone who's untrained, just getting the general foundation of strength like makes a huge difference in how much force they can produce. And then
Hmm.
as you are get more experience, you can get a little bit more specific depending on your goals. But when you're untrained, like you don't really even know like how to do certain movements. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
Okay.
100%. And like you probably don't even need weight, with
Yeah,
those
you don't.
with those athletes, right? And
Yeah.
you can be good with those. So.
Yeah. I want to get to know you on a little bit more personal level. So
All right, let's do it.
tell me about some inspirations or role models that you've had, throughout your life.
So we got Coach Karai there.
Oh,
You
Karch.
got
Yeah.
yeah, you got Muhammad Ali there.
Nice.
I only had two options. I wanted Bruce Lee up there as well.
Yeah.
It was between him or Bruce Lee, and this was the picture that I liked because
Yeah.
in university I actually had this poster um in my what do you call it, my room, and um and it said champions are made from something,
Yeah.
and then pretty much it's like you have to have the skill and the will, but the will must be stronger than the skill.
Mm.
And that was something that really stuck with me. Having, like, yes, you can have the skill, you can be the best, but if you don't have the will, if you don't have the heart and the desire, the determination, the persistence, then it's not going to go far, right? So
Yeah.
you have to have the skill and the will, but the will got to be stronger than the skill.
Nice.
And Karch Karai, I just grew up like I was watching him like in high school. I'm watching all of his 80s AVP. I'm watching like the indoors as well. I'm just watching their games over and over and over again, and I'm watching like his interviews and what he says and everything like that. I'm just watching him. So yeah, he was a big part of my learning the game and growing as an athlete. So yeah,
That's cool.
Bruce Lee as well. Like you can tell, like expressing yourself and just like like trying to be in flow and use your body a certain way and just like the philosophy behind it all,
Mhm.
right? Like that was a big thing. I watched a lot of his movies as well. There was a lot of me watching lots of movies as a kid, and now I love like there was a name for it. It's motivational movies, but it's just like dramatic motivational movies. So
Mm.
like sport movies that are just dramatic, and then they have a downfall, and then they surpass it, and they overcome it. And I love
Like the
superhero
Mighty
movies.
Ducks. The Mighty
No, I've
Ducks.
actually never watched that. No, no.
Coach Carter.
Yes, yes, yes. Coach Carter was a big one. Yeah, Coach Carter. Um, and but a lot of superhero movies. Like I love superheroes
Uh-huh.
because of that, because they go through some sort of struggle, and then they have to try to overcome it, overcome their fears,
Yeah.
and you know, save the day pretty much,
Yeah.
right? So I watch a lot of superhero movies. Yeah.
Have you ever watched Haikyuu?
Yes, 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 I did. And that determination,
Yeah.
that like I resonate with that hard. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good.
I
Where he just
love
wanted to
Haikyuu.
play. Yeah, he just wanted to hit. He just wanted to play. He wanted someone to play with. I rarely had someone to pepper with, and I just wanted to pepper with somebody. Just play. Like I just want to work on my skills, right? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I love Haikyuu because of the how relatable it is. Like if you are a volleyball player and you watch it, it's so relatable. They have like a relatable story for almost like everyone, like every position. Like yeah, I just love Haikyuu. Are you caught up?
All right. No, I honestly haven't watched the whole thing. I stopped like halfway of the first season, so I know there's a lot, right?
Dude, season
But
4 is amazing.
okay,
Season 4 is
all
amazing.
right,
Yeah, like once you
okay.
get deep into it, like it's like the more emotional like the emotional stories and moments in Haikyuu happens like in like season in the later seasons. Like
Okay,
the
okay.
season 1 is really just building up and character development, but then all
Yeah,
like the emotional like back and forth and like the gameplay gets really intense in season 4 because
yeah.
they changed the animation a little bit so it's more fluid and like you getting more rallies and yeah, you getting all kinds of stuff. So highly recommend you finish it.
All right, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I
So
remember one of your posts of like the spinning
yeah, yeah,
spinning
yeah,
move,
yeah, yeah.
trying to hit the
Yeah.
ball. Yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That thing blew up so much on my TikTok. Like it's I think it's my most viewed video with like 8 million views. It's just
Nice.
like it's just eye-catching, I guess. And
Yeah,
the
and it's
IQ
relatable.
music. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I forget. Did you also do like the picture in the back of them being like ah, like the angry faces?
Yeah,
Or
yeah, I
that's
did. I did.
okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I was
cool.
like, let me just mess around with it. And then like it just kept going viral. So I was just like, let me just keep doing this. It's an easy thing to do. So I was just like,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and we were already doing it. It's not like I did it specifically for content. We were already
beautiful.
doing it. Me and my friends stay back after, coaching, and we were already trying the curving serve around the net. Be like, I bet you I can
Yeah,
I bet you I can hit the bottle before you, Like we were already
yeah,
doing it. I was like, why not make this into content? So I just like stick a phone
yeah,
behind it and like we just
yeah.
went
You get
back.
the same view as the TV show, so
Yeah,
for the show.
yeah. So
Awesome.
did you have any pre-game rituals?
Ooh, pregame rituals. Yeah, I wouldn't say they were good. But I definitely had them. Um, I still sometimes do it. No, I mostly do it. Like 99.99%. I always put on my right shoe first. I put on my, I always put on like my right stuff first, right? So I put on my
Interesting.
right sock first, and then my left sock, and then I put on my right shoe, tie it up, put on my left, or I put them both on, but then I tie up my right shoe and I tie up
Uh,
my left shoe. I make sure the right shoe is finished first, like before I go to my left shoe to tie it up. And that's just like a small thing, but it's something I still think about. It was just like a habit, I think maybe I did it once and I played well. I'm like, okay, let me tie my right shoe again. So yeah, I think that's more like uh superstition or just like
Mhm.
creating that, but it was like a ritual.
Cool.
But another one of those, which I thought was pretty funny, was before a game, I always had pancakes.
Pancakes. Eating
Yeah, yeah,
pancakes?
pancakes. Yeah,
Yeah.
pancakes. Yeah, so I had pancakes, like syrup and everything. Um, yeah, I think it's because like after a game, like I felt really good. I played really good.
Yeah.
Um, and um, and then I just kept making pancakes. I was like, I have to make my pancakes before my game. I spaced it out, right? So we
Yeah.
get there like I think it was 2 hours before. So I had it like well before. But then I started getting pretty sluggish. Like this is probably not good. This is probably not good for me to be having. Um, so I don't do that.
Uh-huh.
But besides that is just the warm up, just the warm up. I kept the warm up the same. I wanted to be explosive, and in university, I had like a mental thing. I think these are all like more of like a mental thing,
Hmm.
but I wanted to train the day before. I wanted
Mm.
to train the day before because I felt sore and I liked it and it made me feel good,
Mm.
right? But that's not good.
Right. It's
You don't
not
want to
good.
be sore. You want to be recovered, right? You want to be recovered, and you want to make sure that your CNS is actually like fresh as well,
Mhm.
right? And you're able to move explosively. Reaction time is good, and I just wasn't doing that, but it felt good. But in hindsight, I'm like, that was just me. It was in the mindset of like, oh, if you're not sore, then you didn't do much, right? Or you didn't do anything. But really, that's not good training, right? Like being like you don't want I don't want you to be sore. Like maybe in the beginning you'll have some soreness, but as you get more comfortable with training, I don't want you to be sore. If
Hmm.
you're too sore, that means we did too much, right? And we need to recover. But I want you to be adapted well, right?
Hmm.
And if I'm trying to be sore before a game, I'm going to be fried. My
Hmm.
CNS is going to be fried. My body's not going to move as explosively. So I could have probably done a lot. I could have felt a lot better. But in my head, I'm like, if I'm sore, then that means I did good and I'm going to do good.
Hmm.
But yeah.
So
Yeah.
how important do you weigh each? Let's say like, you're that athlete again, but you feel more confident, right? You feel more confident even though you're sore. Whereas, let's say you're going in there and you're fresh, but you don't feel as confident. Which one would you choose?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question. Like, I can't prep. Like, there's no way that I can train myself to
I
feel
guess
good
you could
the other
still
way.
train, just not to the point where it's sore.
Yeah, like if I can still train, if
Yeah,
I can still train, then yeah, I'll just do very
yeah.
minimal, just to feel good, but not to get sore. I'm not lifting like 300 pounds. I'm not trying to jump as high and do like 40 sets of that, right? Like I'm going to try to come out feeling good and feeling
Hmm.
fresh.
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna get a good sleep. That's a very hard question, man, because it's like both of them are a mental component,
It is.
and really like my answer would be like I would try to I would try to feel good or try to feel confident not training.
Uh-huh.
That's like what I'm leaning more towards. But in
Uh-huh.
your example, I can't do that. So it's
Uh-huh.
like,
Which one will you choose? The
man,
confidence or the fresh legs?
I mean, confidence is huge, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody believes in themselves, it can really transform their game,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can, just like what I said, like help them play free, help
Mm-hmm.
them play the way that they know how because they're not second guessing themselves, they don't have that doubt. So they're able to play free. So, you know, depending on what you need, like I got by, I would say, but I wasn't explosive.
Mm-hmm.
So really what I'd probably do is just feel fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm not confident, but I'm gonna play, right? I'm gonna put myself in that position and I'm going to prove myself that I can play well in this
Okay.
situation and then gradually build that confidence.
Mm. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a workaround with what you're saying.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
can't do that, oh, confidence is huge.
Yeah.
Confidence is huge. So yeah, probably the probably the confidence one, right? Like
Yeah.
that's huge. And if I can just like, train a little bit smarter.
Yeah.
But confidence comes from preparation. So yeah, if I don't feel prepared, then I'm not gonna feel confident. But if I can change the way preparation is in my mind, and I can, you know, reevaluate or redefine what preparation is
Mm-hmm.
and feel confident in that, right?
Yeah.
Not
Cool.
sure if that answered your question, but
It's cool.
there's
It's like it doesn't have to be like a black and white, kind of thing. I like that the way you
those
answered it.
those are probably the hardest for me. Like
Yeah.
the black, because I'm like, man, it depends. It depends. Like, and then I ask for rules. I'm like, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do that? And then if someone is just like, no, you have to just choose, then I'll just like say, okay.
Do you have
Yeah.
a favorite volleyball memory?
Favorite volleyball memory. Ooh, those kind of grow. Those kind of grow. Um, I have, I want to say I have a couple. I want to say I have a couple.
Mm-hmm.
One was more recently when I was playing, and I don't know if you ever watched the highlights of Ingapeth, but there was one where I think he was against Bruno or he hit it against Bruno,
Mm-hmm.
and he just pounded the ball down the line, and he
Mm-hmm.
just like came across him and just
I've
like
seen that.
pulled
I've
it
seen that
down.
clip. Just like,
Yeah, he just like
yeah,
pulled it down,
yeah.
right? And I hit one that felt like that, and I was like,
Ooh,
this is nice. And it was on a block. It just squeezed past the guy here, just like,
yeah.
and then just like went right on the line. Like it was like slightly out, but it was on the line kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
right? But I
Yeah,
I watched it hit the line. I'm like, that's in, and then just
yeah.
came down. I'm just like, so good. So that's for sure one. And then just playing free, like
Mm-hmm.
the moments where I play free, where I'm not thinking so much about it. It's all just happening. I know what to do. I'm allowing myself to play and
Mm-hmm.
I'm relaxed and I'm just playing free, right? I'm doing all
Yeah,
the things that I've trained myself to do. Those just feel so good. And it's because I'm playing free, right? Those are awesome memories, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's dope.
How about
Yep.
you?
Uh, Favorite volleyball memory. It's so funny. It was not even from a hit. It's from a tip. Like I was playing, yeah, I was playing in a adult, adults tournament, and like I don't have college like playing experience. Like I picked this up when I went to college. Like so,
Okay.
senior year was when I touched the volleyball for the first time. My friends from church introduced me to it. We were at like a church convention, and we just picked up a volleyball and played killer. You know what killer is?
No, I don't know what that is.
We're just
What's that?
like, and we're in a circle. We're trying to keep the ball alive. Whoever messes up, go in the middle, and then the people on the outside can then hit at the people on the inside after 3 touches. And the people on the
Oh, okay.
inside can get back out if they catch the ball. And then
Oh, okay. Interesting.
it keeps going on until everyone is in there except for one person and they're the winner.
Okay.
So it just like it was so fun. So I picked it up, played at church a bunch, then went to college, played intramurals a bunch, and I started out with like a baseline like 36-inch vert. So like it's not like 40 inches like was like I worked so hard for it. I just like had a baseline like athletic ability because
Yeah.
I played sports my whole life and was outside running around, jumping around my whole life. So I ne didn't necessarily train for it, but my lifestyle was catered towards jumping high
Hmm.
anyways, because I was always jumping. So um I jumped high, so I picked up hitting really easily. So like when we played, but I had no college experience. So when we played in an adults tournament and me and a bunch of my friends who also don't have like college experience, we just like we play for fun, and we played against a group of collegiate players like from somewhere. I don't know if they were college like club players in college or they were on a actual team in college. Pretty sure, yeah, I don't remember, but they were average 6 feet. The middle was like 6'4", right? And a bunch of us, like smaller Asian guys, like we're like 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", and we put up a game against them. And on game point, I I was in the back row. My setter sets me. I go up, and the whole time I was like bombing balls against them, going around the block and all that stuff. And then on game point, I go up from the back row looking like I'm gonna hit, and I tip from the back row like right in the middle of everyone, and we get win the game.
Uh,
Yeah.
they're all just like
Yeah, everyone just froze and like
campfire defense. Yeah.
yeah, and then we win the game, and that felt so good. And it wasn't even from a hit. It just felt so good because it felt like I outsmarted
Yeah.
and outplayed like players who have been playing like for like at a high level, and it just felt reaffirming of like my abilities of like how far I've gone, even though like I didn't really compete at that level like for college. I It reaffirmed like it gave me a lot of confidence in how I played.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of like Michael Jordan's confidence shot, right? Like when he made the game winning shot, like the on the buzzer beater.
Hmm.
And he says like he always like that was the one that gave me the confidence, to keep going or just to just to play like that one gave him the confidence there. And it reminds me of that. It
Yeah.
gave you that confidence.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, those moments that give you something that stays with you, like outside of volleyball, like those are the moments like that kind of like you remember. And yeah,
Yeah, and you grow, you apply it to your life.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have any
Cool, man.
hobbies outside of volleyball?
Oh yeah. Does training count? Like,
Yes, I mean yes, it counts, but let's say outside of volleyball and training because
yeah, yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love playing games, right? So I love playing, right? So the
Mhm.
theme is playing. I love playing games, video games, like athletic games, tag. Tag is so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, I and I love just playing. So one thing that my wife and I are actually playing right now is Hogwarts Legacy. You know the
Hmm.
game? Yeah,
No.
yeah. Yes. No, no. Yeah, no. So we're playing that, and I just haven't played video games in like I want to say a really long time, like that hard, like
Mm.
years. I would play like some games on my phone, or if yeah, just primarily on my phone. Like I play Mario Kart on my phone kind of thing. Um, but this one, like we got a Switch for our wedding. We
Uh,
we got a Switch, and then I got the game, and then I just started playing like a lot because I just love, it's open world, and you're just able to play. You're able to fly on your broom. And I love doing that.
yeah.
You're able to mount things, and yeah, it's just so much fun. So that's for sure one of the hobbies.
Yeah.
So,
That's funny. I love playing games as well, but like I don't have much time to play games anymore. And my
yeah.
fiance hates games, so I can't relate to you on that part. But
Okay.
yeah, like me and my siblings would my family would play games all the time.
Yeah.
And like I grew up
Likewise.
playing games and it's like playing games like I'm competitive, like I'm super competitive when it comes to playing games too. And it's like playing games, it forces you to figure out like how
Yes.
to, how to win. How do I win that game? It forces you to think critically. And I love
Yeah.
the aspect of it, especially games where it relies on skill to win. I just love it because I'm
Yeah.
competitive.
Yeah, 100%. And just on that note, like it it does. And when I was learning more about, I wanted to learn more about strategy. I want to learn more about strategy and just like we said, how to win. Because I think those were one of the areas where I was lacking. Because I think it's because I was so consumed with myself. Like,
Hmm.
what am I doing? I was more internal as opposed to external. So yes, I was thinking about what I was doing and the way I was moving, but not about how it applied to the point of the game of volleyball, right? The point is like you got to score against the other team,
Hmm.
and you have to stop them from scoring as well, right? So, so I didn't necessarily focus on that so much. I was more consuming myself, and I wanted to be better at that. So
Hmm.
I started to learn more about strategy, and I started to like ask myself, how do I win? How do I
Hmm.
win this? How can I win? What's the point of the game? What do they lack? What do the opponents lack? If there are opponents to it, um, what can I do to expose that? You know, just like things like that,
Yeah.
where I was just getting reps, and in games I'm just getting reps and reps and reps. Not only that, but with the confidence of game winning points, right?
Hmm.
Like if you get nervous, and I would, those are one of the times where I would get nervous, right? I
Hmm.
would get pretty nervous. So practicing those in games is a really good way to work
Yeah.
on that. Where if I'm playing Mario Kart
Yeah.
and I'm about to cross the finish line, I can be like, oh, I have to do something like really well. I have to use my green shell to hit the guy in front of me perfectly. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
I gotta do it. Or I just relax, I let it go, and I just
Hmm.
think about what I gotta do, and then I do
Yeah.
it. And then I win, right? And then if I don't, I think about what I did. If I do, I think about what I did, and I just try to improve. Same thing
Hmm.
with like all the other games, like chess, like things like that. These
Hmm.
are all strategy building games, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. The carryover for people that just gets it, like how to win games, doesn't matter which game, right? And I can see it. Like I would create games, like when
yes,
I'm
yes,
coaching, I'm creating games for them. Hey, these are the rules. This is the drill, right? But really, it's a game. Here are the rules. Uh, if you get a free ball, you give me 1 second.
no
Sorry.
worries, no worries.
If um, it's back row attack, it's quads, back row attack. But if you get a free ball, then you're allowed to go front row. And if you get a kill front row, you get 2 points. So it's stuff like that. And you'd be surprised at how many people getting a free ball and still set back row. I'm like, what are you doing?
Hmm.
Why aren't you setting front
Yeah,
row for the 2 points? Right? And I'm just
strategy.
like,
Yeah.
there are some athletes that gets it, and there are some athletes that just don't get it. And I'm just like, this is a game. You guys got to use the rules and then take advantage of the rules to give yourself the best chance to win. And I'm prepping them to show them, hey, when you're playing against this team, they're gonna show you their weakness. You got to exploit that weakness. It's like a
Hmm.
rule in a game. So it's like there's so many athletes nowadays that like they're so like I feel like especially if they start volleyball at a young age and they're not allowed to just be creative and play, they're so structured all the
Strict.
time.
Yeah.
They don't develop that ability to just create opportunities and play and just be witty, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. Like there's like if they are structured and they're only playing one, maybe they're even just playing one position, right? Or maybe they're a setter and they only do that and they don't do anything else like any other sports, right? Or they're not playing any games that allow them to be in random situations, right? Or express or try to figure out like what happens when I do this. You know, they
Hmm.
don't have the freedom to do
Hmm.
that because they feel like maybe they're going to get in trouble too,
Yeah.
or they've just been ingrained in like a structure, like you have to be in this spot. Whereas in game, you know, it's way more expressive. In
Yeah.
games, it's way more expressive and way more free, and also pretty much random, right?
Hmm.
Like there are places you can put yourself to put yourself in, places you can put yourself to put yourself in a better position,
Hmm.
right? But at the end of the day, like you got to be able to adapt and you got to be able
Yeah.
to read what's going on and get creative in those situations. And I want to go back to your point. You can definitely tell who knows how to win for
Yeah.
sure. Like that was one of the reason now I'm realizing more so is that when I was trying to learn more how to win and everything like that, Karch Karai knew how to win. Like
Hmm.
he was one of those athletes that just knew how to win,
Hmm.
right? He knew what he had to do, and he in those situations like he came over top and won. Sometimes he didn't, right? But he had this overall like he knew how to win. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, and
So, yeah.
those are the most fun players to watch too. It's like, oh my God, he was able to do that in that situation. Like that's crazy. Yeah. And
Yeah,
Ngapeth is one of those other players that know how to do that. And
definitely is
it's just so
one
fun to
thousand percent.
watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I watch him hit these things. I'm watching his game film. I have a game right now. It's actually not France. No, but it's Poland versus US versus Canada.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, when I would watch him, I'm just like replaying that play over and over again. I'm like, okay, why did he do that? Why was he in this position when they were in this position? You know, like why did he hit like this in this
Hmm.
certain situation? And I'm playing it all back and everything like that. And I'm watching what he does after the play. I'm watching like what they you can't hear them, but like you can kind of see what they're talking about maybe and like get an idea. But
Yeah.
I'm like watching I'm trying to figure out why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah.
And because, yeah, he is one of those players that knows how to score, right?
Yeah.
And that, yeah, so
Yeah. All
good.
right. So let's talk about, do you have any future goals and ambition? Like what do you want to do, or like any short-term goals, any long-term goals?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So really trying to grow the business, right? Keep trying to grow the business, helping athletes, you know, worldwide, just helping as many as I can. And like I have a lot of, let's just say I have a lot of things coming.
Yeah.
I have a lot of things come in, right? I have programs, you know, some things that can help with like the mentality as well, like building that personality in the athlete as well. So I got a lot of things coming for that. And honestly, I see it as like an ongoing thing, right? Like
Hmm.
I was reading Atomic Habits, and it really changed my perspective or resonated with me because I felt the same way, but I couldn't quite put it into words. But the goal is to keep playing.
Hmm.
The goal is to keep playing, not necessarily playing volleyball, yes, but
Hmm.
keep doing it, right? It's not just like one goal and then I'm done, right?
Yeah.
It's how can I keep living my life in this way,
Hmm.
right? Over and over and over again and just love the life that I live.
Hmm.
And that is the goal. So like surrounding myself with the things that I love, with the people that I love, and doing what I love every day. And I love helping people. I love playing volleyball. I love training. I love playing in general.
Yeah.
I want to I want to build a life of love with my family, with my wife, and I want to just love,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say that is the goal. And then business helps me do these things and it
Hmm.
helps me express these things as
Yeah.
well. So yeah,
Yeah, I resonate with that 100%. I'm
cool
the
man.
same way. Yeah, I'm the same way.
Cool man. Awesome.
Uh, like because like that the money to me, like I'm chasing freedom. I'm chasing freedom to spend the time that I want with the people that I want. And
Yes,
that's the
exactly.
goal. And the business, everything that I do is just really just try to get there. But it's like it's so freeing, and it's so like it feels so good to have a direction to work towards, and like
Hmm.
have a
Oh yeah, yeah.
vehicle to actually go there. And like I'm so blessed to like have opportunities like this to like talk to you and just like bring people on, hear their like learn new things about like the reverse S curve and then like all that stuff. And yeah, it's super cool to like get these opportunities. And yeah, I super like I 100% resonate with your goals and everything because my goal is the same.
Yeah, man, for real. Like, yeah, it's just like I've always just felt that like the money will come, like that stuff will come. But if I keep remembering why I'm doing this, like
Mm,
why I'm doing this, and I want to help people and I want to build a life of love where I can do what I love every day, right? And yeah, it's very similar like that. So I feel blessed as well to be able to, have a good business online, where I can, work from home. I can train in person as well. I can train myself. I can train athletes in person. And I can help people around the world. And my wife and I can stay home,
mm,
and that's good. Obviously, like we'll go out, and I want to have like my own facility as well, right?
yeah,
Um, which is great, but that's doing what I love as well,
yeah,
right? So yeah, it's just yeah, it's awesome.
yeah. That's dope. All right, we're gonna wrap this up with this one last question. If
All right,
you
let's do
could
it.
go back and give advice to your younger self, yeah, one life advice, what would it be?
Yeah, one, one.
Just
All
one.
right. No, I think these are good. I'm not like I'm not one for like regrets or anything like that because I think like I've learned
Hmm.
I've learned from it, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for all of those things,
Hmm.
and I learned from it, right?
Yeah.
And it's helped me grow and everything like that. But one thing that I would like it doesn't even have to do with regret or anything like that, but
Hmm.
just advice is just be you, you know, be
Hmm.
you, choose you. This is one thing that I started to say to myself, just like choose you every day, choose you. And one of the questions I ask myself is like, what do I want?
Hmm.
What do I want to do? Right. And I think this can really help change the direction of people's lives. But going back to your question, I think it would just help me feel, more free,
Hmm.
allow myself to be myself and know that I'm safe and know
Hmm.
know that I can be myself and know that that is going to only help me, right?
Hmm.
So that's one of the things. Be you, be free. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, this has been a great conversation. I think the people are gonna love it. And if they want to follow, like, and learn more about what you teach, where can they find you?
They can find me at Camera Performance, so that's my IG handle on TikTok, Instagram, and yeah, pretty much like all of them. Camera Performance, and then website cameraperformance.ca. And yeah, that's where you'll find a lot of my content on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, and a lot of updates on Instagram as well. You can sign up for a newsletter soon as well. That'll be on my website, and then they'll be able to get updates there as well.
Sweet. Well, I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your experience and insights with me and everyone else.
Thank you, man. It was fun. I appreciate you inviting me on. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I love talking ball and training. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, man.